Hi everyone, welcome to today's story time. It's the first week of October and we're really getting ready for everything fall, and I have a really fun story to read with you today. What do you think the story is going to be about? What story were we going to read? Let's take a look in our Raising a Reader mystery bag. Oh, my mystery bag certainly is heavy today and round. Let's open it and see what this story might be about. I'm going to dig in far, and the first thing I have are numbers. What number is this? That's right, the number 2. What about this one? 8, you're right. And how about this one? 5. So I have numbers in my bag. I wonder what else is in there. Let's dig in to find out. Ooh, it's something heavy. Wow, I've never had something like this in my mystery bag before. It's a great big what? It's a pumpkin, right, because we have pumpkins in the fall. How many of you have ever had a pumpkin? Have you ever carved a pumpkin open and put your hand inside and tried to scoop what's inside out? How does it feel? Does it feel warm? Does it feel cold? Is it dry or wet? In our pumpkins, a lot of time, things feel very slimy, very wet, and full of seeds. So our read aloud today has something to do with numbers and a pumpkin. I wonder what the read aloud could be. I'll put our pumpkin right here. Today's read aloud is going to be How Many Seeds in a Pumpkin? And I'm so excited to read it with you. But before we start reading, let's take a look at the cover. What are those children holding? They are holding pumpkins. I wonder what they're going to do with those pumpkins. Let's do a picture walk and take a look. So the author of this book is Margaret McNamara, and the illustrator is G. Brian Karras. I'm going to look through a couple pictures and see what this read aloud is all about. The first picture, what do we see? Looks like a group of kids. Anything that you notice about how they're all standing? They look like they're in some kind of line from the smallest to the tallest. This next picture shows 3 pumpkins. What do you notice about those 3 pumpkins? You're right. These pumpkins look like they're in line from smallest to tallest as well. I'm going to skip a few more pages and see if I can figure anything else out about this book. If I look at these 2 pages, I see some girls in front of 3 bags. The number 3 seems to be coming up an awful lot. 3 pumpkins and 3 bags. Let me look at one more page. I'm going to try this one. In this one, there are a lot of students standing in front of a board, and they're all writing numbers. I wonder how that relates to the title, How Many Seeds in a Pumpkin? Let's read and find out. While we're reading, we're going to look for a couple words. The first word we're going to look for is pumpkin, and we know that a pumpkin is one of these. The next word we're going to look for is the word smock. What do you think the word smock might mean? And finally, we're going to look for the word slimy. How is slimy found in this book? Is it the slime that feels when you reach inside a pumpkin? Is it another slimy? I'm not sure, but let's find out. How many seeds in a pumpkin? Here's the picture. Charlie liked school. He liked his teacher, Mr. Tiffin. He liked his best friend, Alex, but he did not like lining up to go into school. Mr. Tiffin's class lined up by size, tallest to smallest, or smallest to tallest. Charlie was the smallest in class every time. One chilly fall morning, Charlie was surprised to see 3 bright orange pumpkins on Mr. Tiffin's desk. One pumpkin was big, one was medium, and one was small. How many seeds in a pumpkin? Mr. Tiffin asked the class. Does anybody know? Let's pause and think for a moment. How many seeds do you think are in a pumpkin? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it a million quadrillion? I don't know. Nobody knew, but everybody had ideas. The biggest one has the most, said Robert. I bet it has 1 million seeds. Robert was the tallest boy in the class. The medium one has 500, Eleanor said. Eleanor always sounded as if she knew exactly what she was talking about. The tiny one has 22, said Anna. Anna liked even numbers better than odd ones. Mr. Tiffin wrote down all the guesses on the blackboard. Charlie was very quiet. What are you thinking, Charlie? Mr. Tiffin asked. I'm thinking that all the best guesses are taken, Charlie said. Why don't we open these pumpkins up and see, said Mr. Tiffin. Let's take a look at Charlie. He seems to be the smallest person in the class. And how does his face look in this picture? I think he looks a little sad. I wonder why Charlie's so sad. The next day, the kids in Mr. Tiffin's class brought in spoons for scooping and bowls for holding and plastic bags for throwing out. They covered the floor with newspaper. They put on their smocks. It's a messy business counting pumpkin seeds, said Mr. Tiffin, but the class was ready. One of our vocabulary words was the word smock. If every child put on a smock, what do you think they put on? Let's look at the smocks. A smock must be some kind of covering to protect my clothes so that they don't get messed up. After Mr. Tiffin cut a circle around each pumpkin stem, Kimmy, Alex, and Jake pulled off the caps. The children peered inside. The big one definitely has the most, said Robert. We'll see, said Mr. Tiffin. The pumpkin pulp was slimy and stringy, and the seeds were hard to get out. Slimy and stringy. Can you all pretend you're reaching into a pumpkin and pulling the slime and string out? Let's do it. Ready? Let's reach into our pumpkin and pull it out. What does your face look like when you're pulling out something slimy and stringy? Are you smiling? Are you frowning? Or are you going, ooh, this is so gross? Maybe you like slime and don't think it's gross. When the children were finished, there were 3 empty pumpkins. 1, 2, 3. 3 full bowls and 20 messy hands. Tomorrow we will find the answer to our question, said Mr. Tiffin. Tonight your homework is to think about how we should count all these seeds. That afternoon, Mr. Tiffin dried the seeds. The next day, he put them in 3 paper bags marked big, medium, and small. Did you do your thinking homework? Mr. Tiffin asked. Yes, said Alex. I think we should just guess. I think we should count very, very carefully, said Tara. I think we should count by 2s, 5s, and 10s, said Molly. The class agreed that Molly had a good idea. Robert, Kimmy, and Jake all wanted to count the seeds in the big pumpkin by 2s. Anna asked if she could join them. We can be the 2s club, she said. They practiced counting together. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, they said together. Jeremy, Tara, Eleanor, Molly, and Alex like counting by 5s. We'll count the seeds in the medium pumpkin, said Molly. We can be the 5s club. I'll take the smallest pumpkin, said Charlie. I guess I'll be in the 10s club. Good idea, said Mr. Tiffin. 10, 20, 30, Charlie began. So Charlie's the smallest in the class, and he's getting the smallest pumpkin. How many seeds do you think are in each of these pumpkins? Do you think the smallest pumpkin has the most, or the biggest pumpkin? Maybe it's even the medium. Soon, there were many groups of seeds in front of each pumpkin. Wow, that's the Twos Club. See, said Robert, the Twos Club has the most. It had 170 pairs of seeds. The Fives Club has lots too, said Eleanor. They had 63 groups of 5 seeds and 1 seed left over. Ooh, look at all those seeds. I wonder which one has the most. Let's check out Charlie's pumpkin. The Tens Club. Charlie had exactly 35 groups of 10 seeds. Robert looked at the seeds in front of Charlie. You don't have a whole lot, Charlie said. Let's get counting, said Mr. Tiffin. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, began Robert, Kimmy, Jake, and Anna. It took a long time to count 170 pairs of seeds. My brain hurts, said Anna. The biggest pumpkin had 340 seeds. Almost 1,000,000, said Jake. The fives were a little easier. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, said Eleanor, Molly, Jeremy, and Tara. There were 316 seeds in the medium pumpkin. Too bad for you, said Robert. It's not a contest, said Molly. Okay, we know how many the big one has and the medium. The big one has 170 pairs of seeds. The big one has 340. The medium has 316. How many seeds is that smallest pumpkin going to have? Let's take a look. The tens were the fastest of all, since there were just 35 groups. 10, 20, 30, 40, Charlie counted to himself. This can't be right. What can't be right, said Mr. Tiffin. There are 350 seeds in my little pumpkin, said Charlie. That means it had the most of all. So it does, said Mr. Tiffin. Congratulations, Charlie, said Alex. The Tens Club wins. That's not a contest, said Robert. Mr. Tiffin told the class to gather around. You can never tell how many seeds are in a pumpkin until you open it up, he said, but there may be some clues. Take a good look at these. The class did. Charlie's is darker orange, said Anna. It has more lines on the outside. Yep, said Mr. Tiffin. For each line on the outside, there is a row of seeds on the inside. That's good to know, said Eleanor. And the longer the pumpkin grows, the more lines it gets, he added. The skin gets darker too. So even though my pumpkin was the smallest, it was on the vine the longest, said Charlie. Exactly, Mr. Tiffin agreed. When it was time to go home, the class lined up by the door. How did they line up? Smallest to tallest this time, said Mr. Tiffin. Robert was at the back, and Charlie was at the front. And when they left the classroom, it was Charlie leading the way. The end. So what did we learn? Sometimes the pumpkins that are the smallest might have the most seeds. Sometimes great things come in small packages too. I loved reading this story today, and we got to look at a few different vocabulary words. One was pumpkin, which we know is one of these. And remember, for every line on the outside, there is a row of seeds on the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's probably at least 200 seeds in just this pumpkin. We learned about what a smock was. Remember, the smock goes over your clothes to protect your clothes from getting dirty. And slimy. What does slimy mean? It's that wet kind of feeling that's ooey and gooey, similar to when you're reaching into a pumpkin to clean it out. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. What I want you to do now is head over to raisingareader.org and download some of the extension activities. There's a recipe for pumpkin pie, there's a recipe for roasting seeds, and there's also an activity on doing art with a pumpkin. Have fun, and I can't wait to see you next time.